What's up guys, this is the Honest Outlaw here, and today we're going to be doing an update video. One of my first videos ever was on the Surefire XC1 weapon light. And one of the reasons why I started YouTube in the first place, actually, I was pretty excited about this light, and not a lot of people had done reviews on it, so I wanted to do a review on it myself just to show people what an awesome light it is. And about, sometime this month, next month, something like that, will be the mark of the year. Will be about a year that I've had this light. So I just wanted to give you guys some of the information that I have learned through owning this light for a year that probably isn't in most other videos about this light, especially mine, because, like I said, reviewers only have a certain amount of time to put out a review of a product. And a lot of times we don't really get the opportunity to fully test things for a long period of time. Things like battery life on red dots, stuff like that, durability on a lot of products. I mean, you can make a good estimation of how durable a product's going to be based on the track record of some of the other products that company makes, but you never really know till you put the time in. And as it turns out, I've put the time in. I'll be rolling some footage throughout this video of all the different firearms and times and situations that I've used this light. And I mean, we're talking thousands of rounds downrange with this thing sitting either underneath a pistol or right next to the muzzle of a rifle. So I would have to say durability is a big win still. And it's no surprise really, considering that I own lots of Surefire lights and they're the only brand of lights that I really trust my life to. I like Streamlight, and occasionally Streamlight runs on a carry gun or something of mine, but for the most part it's Surefire, and there's a reason behind that. It's just the most durable light out there that I've found so far. It's reliable, they have really good throw, and they just have an all-around good track record for their company. So before I tell you some of the problems that I've run into with this light between last year and this year, I'm going to tell you some of the reasons why I bought it, tell you some of the pros first, and then I'll get into some of the cons. Some of the cons maybe I had an idea about before, but some of them were kind of a surprise to me. First thing, this light is extremely lightweight. It is 1.5 ounces, including the battery. That is incredible. Which gives you basically the ability to put it on a pistol like this. Let's say, because you could concealed carry this this light relatively easily. You can put it on any pistol and almost not notice that it's on there. Comparably, this Glock, alright, is only maybe an ounce or two lighter than the Ppq, and if you pick them both up together, you wouldn't notice the weight difference. Same thing applies for when you only put an ounce on the pistol, and if you're going to put an ounce on a pistol, in my opinion, the light is the best place for it, because it does only add an ounce, but it also decreases the recoil that you feel when you fire the pistol. So I really don't see a downside to running this light on a pistol as far as size and weight goes, unless maybe you're carrying appendix, in which case it can get in the way of something maybe you don't want it to get in the way of. But it definitely is the lightest and most compact, durable light that I've seen. Other than the fact that it's super light and super tiny, it takes AAA batteries, which I am pretty excited about. Finding proprietary batteries, especially in a time of need, would be difficult, and it's nice to have just a commonplace battery, so if you need it, you could go to the gas station down the street and pick up a battery for your weapon light, and for me that's a big plus. Alright, so it is a super durable, super small, tiny, reliable light that takes common batteries. So what are some of the problems that you'll run into? Well, number one, the price. The price is $200, is relatively expensive for a weapon light, but you get what you pay for, and if you want that Surefire name and that Surefire reliability, you're going to have to pay for it. But you knew that it was expensive before you tuned into this video, at least most of you did, so let me give you a couple problems with it that you may not know. First off, as you can see right here, this is the reason why I left it on this for the video, is it has some issues mounting to the Ppq. And one of the reasons why that is because of how it mounts. Instead of using the mounting system that the X300 and X300 Ultra uses, it has just the standard mount, and you can't change it out between Picatinny and rails like this Glock 19 here. And since it was designed basically for the Glock 19, it has some issues with some Picatinny rails depending on which individual light you get. Especially this one here has issues with the Ppq rail, because the Ppq rail is plastic. Now as you see there, when you mount it, it mounts flush, and then it wants to run more and more down the more and more you tighten it. And if you don't tighten it, it'll rattle off and fall off. But if you do tighten it, it has this weird downward angle. But I have put about 250 rounds through it since I put it on the Ppq, and it has not fallen off. So I'm going to take this off real quick, and I'll put it back on there and kind of show you what I mean. And then I'll mount it on some other guns so you can see what it looks like on some other guns real quick, while I talk about some of the other problems that I encountered. So basically, when you're trying to mount the light, another problem that you run into is it's not super difficult, but it's not as easy to mount as something like a Surefire X300, for example, or the TLR for that matter. It's kind of similar to the TLR3, but the TLR3 is still easier because even though the TLR3 uses kind of a screw mechanism, for one, you can turn it by hand. Toolless mounting is kind of a big plus for me, especially since these little lights have a tendency to fall off occasionally. And if you don't have a screwdriver on the range or a knife or something like that, you're without a light. Especially if you're using that in a self-defense scenario, an easy pull-on, push-off mechanism like the X300, I can show you that right here. You just pull up these tabs and push off, is a big plus. So that's an issue already, especially when you are mounting it to a whole bunch of different firearms like I have while I've been reviewing this light. Another issue that I found with this light is that even though the paddles are kind of, well, they're obviously very streamlined to the pistol, they're kind of hard to operate, and occasionally you'll be searching around for the paddle as opposed to just pressing it like you would the Surefire X300. Another problem that I've ran into quite frequently, in fact, that I'm really not a fan of is this cross bolt constant on and off switch that you see there. So these are momentary. You press them in just like that, and these are the constant on. Now you wouldn't think you would hit that, but on a pistol you would be surprised, especially with my big hands, how often your hand gets near that. And oftentimes I find that I've turned that on, and even during the daytime shooting, I'll look at either some of my old footage or something like that and see that the light was on the whole time, and it runs me out of battery. That could have more serious consequences as well. Let's say you were trying to sneak away from somebody or something like that and your light accidentally popped on. So that's an issue, and it's not really that positive either. It doesn't really make a noise or a clicking sound when you turn it on, so it's difficult to discern when it's on, especially during the daytime. So I wish they would make that a little more audible and a little more tactile, and maybe a little more difficult to push on and off. Another issue I wanted to talk about is occasionally, about once every 100 or so or 200 times, you'll press the paddle and nothing will happen. Now I'm not really sure why that is, and believe me, it's not as bad as it sounds, honestly, because it does pop on right away. You just click off the paddle and click it back on. Now, is that a prelude to something more nasty in the future? I'm not really sure. But as far as I've seen so far, I've shot, like I said, thousands of rounds out of this, dropped it, shot it in the rain, shot it in the snow, thrown it in the mud, all kinds of stuff, and the thing still keeps on ticking. Just occasionally it has a few hiccups, so it's kind of like the pistol that it's riding on itself. Pretty reliable, but occasionally you got to watch out for it. Now another thing I wanted to talk about real quick while I have it off here is, again, I said that it kind of messes up the Picatinny mount here. I don't know if you guys can see that well, but it really bit a huge chunk into this Ppq mount. And one of the reasons for that is because when it mounts, it kind of vices down a little more than it probably should, I think. Maybe they should just come up with a different mounting system, to be honest. But it can ruin your gun as well, so be careful how much you tighten them down on these plastic rails. Now, as you can see on the Glock and on the metal railed 1911, there are no issues. You see I just turned on the constant on right there by accident. I just literally did it right in front of your face. But as you can see, there are no issues with it dipping or looking like it's going to come off or anything like that. Now on the Glock, since it is also plastic, you can kind of move it around a little bit. Turn on the constant on again by accident. But you can kind of move it around a little bit, but trust me, it is very solid. I had it just riding on this G19 for like 3 or 4 months, and I shot it in the snow. This was originally my home defense pistol, and since I bought a bunch more pistols since then, it's kind of been retired to either my truck or it's a night carry gun when I'm moving around the farm at night. But as I said, it's very secure on the platform that it's really intended for. The dipping issue seems to only happen on plastic Picatinny rails. But the last thing I wanted to talk about as far as problems go is kind of battery life. Since this is a one-powered unit, there's not really multiple settings of brightness. It's on the brightest setting all the time, so it does run out that AAA battery fairly quickly. In my experience, at least with my light, I know they say you've got about 2 hours of run time. I'd probably cut that in half. I'd probably give that to about an hour of run time before it starts getting really dim and you're starting to notice a real loss of power there. So if it were up to me, about an hour of use, I'd switch that guy out. AAA batteries are not that expensive. Alright, the last thing I wanted to show you, that a couple of my subscribers had asked me previously, is how I had this AR-15 mounted, or how I had the XC1 mounted on my AR-15. So as you can see there, this is just a Picatinny rail. It's a steel rail that I bought from eBay. It's not steel, it's metal, sorry. It's like aluminum or something like that. And basically I have the X300 Ultra mounted on there right now. And for a long time I had the XC1 mounted on there. And the reason why that is because, you know, this is my wife's rifle. And the less weight up front, the better really for her. I mean, she's a smaller frame person, you know, she's only 5'2", I think, so she's basically a midget. But less weight up front, the more comfortable she is shooting it, and then the more she'll shoot it, the better she'll get at it, the less I have to worry about protecting her, the more she can protect herself. So, cause and effect thing there. So I'm going to mount that up here real quick as soon as I get that off. I know I said it's easy to get these on and off, but you have to kind of put a little oomph into it in kind of one clean motion, and I don't think I can pull that off behind the camera because I have a really weird setup thing here going on. So I'm going to pop off camera here real quick and remove it for you guys. Alright, pops off just like that. No screwdriver required. So as now you can see it kind of, I have it sitting in that 10, 11 o'clock spot, right where I like my lights. If I can't have them at 12 o'clock, I like them at 11 o'clock on my rifles. And the reason for that is if you popped your rifle up on a car or a barricade or something and you're using it as cover, your light is in line with your aiming system and your barrel. So you're not flashing your light right into a wall or something like that and either blinding yourself or not being able to see your target. So I like to have it kind of in line with the bore and the red dot. So basically what we're going to do is apparently we're going to have to loosen this a little bit more. Hit the constant on again by accident. See, I wasn't lying about that. Sorry about that. Review's kind of turned into a shit show here. That's what you get when you do stuff live. So we just pop it on here like that. Turn it over. Screw it down. And I also noticed, even though I did call Surefire and ask them about that mounting issue that I had with that dip down, and they told me that it just does it on plastic rails. As you can see there, it does it a little bit on this rail as well. But it's no big deal, and again, I shot it a bunch with this on it, and it did not fall off or malfunction in any way. So it works pretty well. It's extremely low profile. As you can see there, it fits right by that front sight, which is pretty awesome. Out of the way, lightweight, barely ever know it's there until you need it. And for me, that's what I like out of a weapon light. So even though there's some pros and some cons to this light, it is still my favorite weapon light on the market. Please like and subscribe if you like the video. Please help out your local homeless shelters, and remember to recycle. Check you later.